Hi, my name is Nick Covert. In this episode, we will be exploring the question of why some students are choosing to live off campus at Texas Tech University. I have three interviewees today. One person who is currently living off campus, one person who plans to live on campus next year, and one who plans to live off campus next year. But before we get into the interviews, let's look at a report made by Sarah Wood. Wood reports about financial aid, student debt, tuition, and other topics related to paying for college as an education reporter of U.S. News. In her article titled, College Student Housing Should I Live On Campus or Off? She claims that off campus gives students more independence and real life experience of paying bills, cooking, and finding renter's insurance. She also mentions that housing on campus has around 300 to 400 students per resident hall, which is much more than a typical apartment would have. Now, let's listen to an interview I had with Zoe, who currently attends Texas Tech and is living off campus. Why do you currently live off campus?
I currently live off campus just because I feel like the off campus apartments are a little nicer and give more amenities than the ones on campus.
What apartment complex do you currently live at, or do you live in a house?
I live in an apartment and it's called Capstone Cottages.
Were there any negative experiences that you had in living in dorms your freshman year that drove you to choose an apartment?
No, not necessarily. It was just more of like the random roommates not being able to select a roommate in a dorm, whereas in an apartment you sign a lease with the roommates you want. So you kind of have like, you already know the people most of the time.
And why did you choose to live in an apartment instead of a house?
Just because there wasn't a lot of houses on the market whenever I was looking. It also wasn't very reasonable to buy a house compared to living in an apartment, but I do plan on living in a house next year more than likely.
All right, and do you currently have a dining plan? Because I know when you are a resident on campus, it includes a dining plan. You have to pay. If you're off campus, you have to pay a special fee to get the dining plan and get the discounts.
I'm pretty sure that I have a dining plan, but it's the one where you refill it like whenever you want, so you can put a certain amount of money whenever you feel like it. In my interview with Zoe, she mentioned how off-campus apartments are nicer than the ones on campus, which is something that I did not know. But it is important to consider when choosing to live on or off campus. After interviewing Zoe, I asked her if she regrets moving off campus, and she said that she didn't. Next up, I have an interview from a student named Blake who is currently a freshman here at Tech and plans on living off campus next year when he is a sophomore. Why do you want to live off campus?
There's a lot of reasons, but a big one for me is probably some added privacy, and I also get to practice living on my own, which is probably a pretty good skill to have.
In what dorm are you a current resident?
In Stengel.
All right. Did you have any negative experiences that have had an effect on your decision to live off campus?
Yeah, there's been a couple of them. The biggest one for me probably is the fire alarms going off in the middle of the night, which is incredibly infuriating as you get woken up at 3 in the morning to the alarm blaring and you got to go wait outside for half an hour or longer in 40-degree weather. One actually happened two nights ago, right before my chem exam. 2:30 a.m. the fire alarm went off, so that's a pretty big factor.
What do you do when you get kicked out in the middle of the night? What do you do?
Yeah, we actually just have to stand outside, and it's usually so cold that I have to go wait in the MCOM.
And how long are you outside?
Probably about 45 minutes usually, because we gotta wait for the fire department to come here and then make sure everything's safe.
Dang, that must suck.
So, yeah.
All right. Do you plan on living in an apartment next year or a house?
I plan on living in an apartment next year.
An apartment? Any particular reason you didn't pick a house?
I feel like apartment's probably a little bit easier, and there's a lot of apartments kind of close to campus, so it's not a long drive or anything.
All right, so distance is a big factor for you. So like, if you're off campus, you want to be really close.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have like a 10-minute, 20-minute commute.
But not too
to
close.
Campus. But not living on campus, no.
All right. How many roommates do you plan on having?
I plan on having 3 roommates.
3 roommates? All right, that's a good number. And will you be purchasing a dining plan?
I won't be since I'll have a kitchen and everything.
During Blake's interview, he mentions about how the fire alarm being pulled is his most negative experience while living on campus. Now, what makes this interesting is that while conducting my secondary research, I didn't find any other source mention a fire alarm being a reason why students choose to live off campus. This begs the question if this problem is unique to just Texas Tech. After conducting secondary research, I have found other reasons that were not mentioned by the two previous interviewees on why some students choose to live off campus. The article titled Living Off Campus Pros and Cons from the website storestudent.living.com states that pros of living off campus include having your home year round, which none of the other interviews mentioned, new experiences, and not having to share a bathroom. My next and final interview is from a freshman named Derek here at Tech. However, he will be living on campus next year when he is a sophomore. Why do you want to live on campus?
For me, like one of the big things living on campus is it is cheaper than going out and getting an apartment. The other pluses with it is I have access to the dining halls with it, so I don't have to be forced to spend my own money for food on campus or off campus. If I ever just want to, spend my dining plan money, it's easier with having a dorm on campus rather than off campus.
Do you have any negative experiences living in the dorms currently?
No, I don't have any negative experiences with that. So far, it's been pretty good.
Do you think if you had any negative experiences that would impact your decision to live on campus next year?
Yeah, I think so. If there was extremely loud neighbors or something like that, I think that would definitely be a big factor on maybe getting out of the dorms. Luckily, we don't really have that, so it hasn't been a big issue with me.
All right. And did the dining plan have any effect on your decision to live on campus?
For this semester, yeah, it did. I knew coming in I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on food, so getting the dining plan was a really important part. So that really was important when I was choosing the dorms because I did want to have the dining plan.
Well, what about next year when you're living in the on-campus apartment? Because if you live off campus, you have to pay extra for a dining plan. Mm-hmm. When you live on campus, you don't have to pay extra for the dining plan.
Yeah, that's another plus of living on campus. So next semester I am living in West Village, and I do get kind of the perks of it being an apartment. I get my own kitchen, get basically everything you would find in a normal apartment. But with that, I do get the dining plan, which is a big plus. I didn't know about the part where it was extra, but that is a big thing. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't really like to pay a whole lot extra for the dining plan. If that means it would be the same if I was just to go out and buy food myself.
All right. And how many roommates do you plan on having next year?
Next year, there's going to be 4, I believe. 4 in West Village.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
To wrap up today's episode, let's answer the question that started it all. Why do students choose to live off campus? Zoe currently lives off campus and chooses to do so because of the off-campus apartments are nicer and have more amenities. Blake wants to live off campus for more independence, privacy, and to escape from fire alarms. I realized that Derek is living on campus, and that is the opposite of the question of the episode. But I believe it is important to analyze all parts of the question, which includes why students are choosing not to live off campus. And Derek chooses to live on campus because it is cheaper, easier access to restaurants and food, and the use of a dining plan. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. See you later.